Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, Ashley Benefield took the stand in her own defense. Well, she had to. Justin Timberlake's attorney's doing lawyer stuff, and, well, it kind of backfired. Sarah Boone is looking for an attorney. She's had 9, who will be number 10. What does a pedophile look like? Well, we'll show you, because we know he confessed, and then he ended his own life. This Jeopardy contestant got arrested for doing inappropriate things with children. Who is Winston Nguyen, Mother of the Year contestant? And yes, no one wants to be a contestant in this contest. And then our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Before we get to the show, who is this show brought to you by today? Well, it's brought to us by U.S. GoldTrust. Ladies and gentlemen, buy gold. It is a hedge against inflation. Now, we all know we're experiencing inflation due to the current state of the economy, and that leaves a lot of uncertainty as to the value of the dollar. If you're like me, and you've been putting away money for retirement, yes, we'd like to retire someday, how you thought about how far that money will actually go. That's where U.S. GoldTrust comes in, and they can help you reduce some of that uncertainty. Gold is valued, and the projection is ready to hit an all-time high in 2024. And with gold holding its value, it is a very, very good investment. Now, there is a team standing by to answer any questions, and they're going to walk you through the process if you believe that it is right for you to roll your 401k into precious metals. It doesn't have to be all of it. It could be a portion of it. Check out the link below in the description here, and you can learn more about precious metals investing. Ladies and gentlemen, go to the link, fill out the form. They will contact you. No obligation. You're not buying anything. Only if you decide it is the best thing for you, then you can make that decision. But it's something everybody should, in fact, consider. Yes, I have gold, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a hedge, okay? It's been around since the beginning of time. It's not going away. And what happens when all hell breaks loose in the world? That's right. People rush to gold. So get there while it's still cheap before it goes up even higher. Let's go ahead and open the record for July 26, 2024. And first on the docket, Ashley Benefield. She took to the stand in her own defense today. Now, Miss Benefield is charged with killing her ex-husband, going through a nasty divorce. There's issues about child custody. They have this whirlwind romance where they get married in less than 2 weeks, 13 days to be exact, after they first met. Everything's golden, doesn't turn out so well. That's right, Miss Benefield, a former ballerina, moves to Florida, but then they're going to decide we're going to move everybody to Maryland, where everyone's going to be happy family but live separately, but they can at least have equal custody issues. Well, Ashley Benefield testified today that she had never seen her ex, Doug Benefield, that angry before. She said that they were in a tense argument and she tried to end the relationship and the fight escalated. Like I said, Ashley claimed that she had never seen Doug so angry and therefore, she shot him out of self-defense. She's currently on trial for second-degree murder. Now, the trial is going to resume. There's some pretrial issues, actually I say trial issues, regarding whether the defense expert is going to be able to testify. There's a Daubert hearing going on right now. I think they will find him to be a credible expert as it relates to DV violence, etc. So the trial will resume on Monday with the jury. So let's get something clear. Everybody else like, it's self-defense, right? She's going to get her self-defense instruction. Ms. Benefield tried to get the Make My Day Stand Your Ground in Florida, saying, hey, I felt in fear. I need to be able to do this. Well, the judge says, no, you don't get immunity. Let a jury decide. Well, the jury, even though the judge has rejected her Make My Day immunity claim, the jury can still decide whether this is self-defense or not. Now, what I think is interesting about this case is this is a good old-fashioned murder, right? It's not a whodunit. It's a simple question of whether it is self-defense or cold-blooded murder. This trial would have been done today had there not been a couple of scheduling issues as it related to some witnesses for the defense. So it'll roll into Monday. I would estimate this will be to the jury by Tuesday morning. That means basically it's a 5-day trial, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way homicide trials should be run. Most homicide trials don't go that long. It's usually not a whodunit. It's either a question of fact, or if it's an ID, nobody disputes that there was a homicide, saying it just wasn't me. This judge in this case, very, very good. He runs a tight ship, and I can see why he is moving this case along quite nicely. Next on the docket, Justin Timberlake. Well, he's not guilty. He wasn't drunk. His lawyer's doing lawyer stuff, and it's kind of backfiring. So Justin Timberlake's lawyer has insisted that Mr. Timberlake was not intoxicated when he blew through a stop sign and was arrested for driving while impaired in the Hamptons last month. Now, Justin Timberlake was not intoxicated, and what we're very confident is that the criminal charge will be dismissed. Mr. Edwin Burke told the court today, as well as reporters outside of the courtroom this morning. Now, Timberlake did not appear in person as he is scheduled to perform in Poland as part of his world tour tonight. Anyway, Mr. Timberlake's lawyer insisted that Mr. Timberlake was not intoxicated. Now, the defense tried to raise a quick issue in court saying, hey, your paperwork's not filled out, therefore the case needs to be dismissed. Well, the prosecutor also saw the paperwork glitch and fixed it. And they had the new signed paperwork for the court hearing today. And so they said, hey, you know what? Why don't we just have Mr. Timberlake present and rearrange him the next time so we don't have to have him rearrested? Would you like to do that, Mr. Defense Attorney? Yeah, nice try. Getting cutesy. The paperwork glitch has been fixed. Anyway, now Mr. Timberlake was ordered to reappear for the arraignment, and that is now set for August 2nd at 9:30. He will appear virtually. Now, after the hearing, Mr. Timberlake's attorney, Mr. Burke, took some shots at the prosecutors, figuratively, for the error in the paperwork charging. The police made a number of very significant errors in this case, and there are many others, Mr. Burke said. The DA is trying to fix something here. You're going to scratch your head and ask yourself why this wasn't resolved immediately. There's not a spot of ink that's the sergeant's signature. Now, I would be a little more cautious if I was the defense attorney in this particular case. You didn't get it on the technicality that the paperwork wasn't filled out. And now you're going to say that your client was not intoxicated. Yes, that's because there was no blood test or breath test from Mr. Timberlake. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The defense will be he wasn't impaired. He was just fine. And it's the police officer, a young police officer, who has made the mistake here. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, I can't wait to see all the body cam footage, and then we'll all be able to tell whether Mr. Timberlake was in fact intoxicated or maybe he was not. So we'll have to see how that goes. Now, the attorney for Mr. Timberlake did want to make it clear that Mr. Timberlake respects the entire judicial system, the district attorney's office, and the judge for obviously hearing this case, but the fact remains he was not intoxicated. Okay, then all those witnesses who say they saw him drinking those big old drinks and the police officer's observations, we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see the body cam video. I think the police should, in fact, release the body cam video immediately, and I'm sure Mr. Timberlake would have no problem with that either. Right, Mr. Burke? Next on the docket, Sarah Boone. You keep saying to yourself, where do I know that name? Sarah Boone. Why do I know that name, right? Yeah, she's the woman that we've talked about. She's gone through, I think, number 9 on the attorneys, number 9 and number 10. And the judge said that she must represent herself. Well, she's charged with a pretty serious crime. She's charged with second-degree murder and faces a potential sentence of life in prison if she's found guilty of killing her boyfriend, Jorge Thomas, who was found zipped inside a suitcase back in February of 2020. Now, Ms. Boone has admitted to zipping Mr. Torres in the bag, but has maintained that the death was an accident and the result of a hide-and-seek game gone wrong. Now, earlier this month, the judge ruled that Ms. Boone's conduct was so outrageous that she had forfeited her right to an attorney. And I agree with the judge. Yes, you have a right to your attorney, but you can, through your own conduct, forfeit that right, and you can go do it yourself. Because if it's so damn easy, what's the problem? And Ms. Boone, if it's such a clear and simple case that you guys were playing a game and your boyfriend got locked in the zipped up suitcase, go tell your story to the jury if it's that simple. I mean, come on, Ms. Boone, how difficult could it be? I mean, I recently handled a case where there was a pro se defendant among us. And the first thing he says, oh my God, how do you do this? This is so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Because everybody thinks it's easy because they've seen it on TV. How tough could it possibly be? Well, going and showing up to court and asking the questions is only half the battle. You got to figure out the strategy, tactical things that you want to accomplish, the legal issues that you want to raise. Oh, and then you got to comply with all the nonsensical rules of the formatting, the font, what are the margins going to be? All that nonsense that the court imposes, ladies and gentlemen. It's time consuming for people to know what the heck they're doing, let alone for somebody who doesn't. Anyway, we digress. Anyway, Ms. Boone was brought over to court to represent herself at a hearing that had been scheduled the day before. Now, the hearing was set to provide the private investigator that Ms. Boone is going to have at state expense, and that the investigator will handle getting the discovery and keeping the discovery while she is in the jail. But Ms. Boone wasn't so concerned about that. She wanted to know why she was brought to court without notice, and wanted to know why everybody else was aware of the scheduled hearing except for her. And, she's not wrong. She is in the jail, but she's pro se. It's not like they're going to walk over and say, hey, we're going to do it. But they could have called and said, hey, we're going to do this. But Ms. Boone, welcome to the harassment package. You're pro se now. You get sometimes told by the court where you're going to be, when you're going to be, and they don't really care where you are. And since you're in custody, what, you got your busy day planned or something? No, you don't. So just go with it. Focus more on your defense, right? It was just an accident and it's not murder, right? That's your theory of the case. So go try the darn thing. Anyway, in a letter dated July 18th to the court, Ms. Boone wrote the court asking for discovery in the case. That's why they had the hearing. And the letter also included a handwritten ad for an attorney teasing an epic opportunity awaits a potential attorney. Now, Ms. Boone's trial is scheduled for October 7th. I think anybody could get up to speed on this particular case by then. It's not that complicated. And I think it's going to go October 7th because the judge says, oh no, we're going forward, and there would have to be extraordinary good cause for this matter to be continued yet again. Now, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on attorney number 8, 9, 10, only a newbie attorney would take that case thinking, oh, I'm going to get some notoriety out of this, or you got nothing else going on, okay? One of the biggest red flags that you will hear from attorneys when it comes to clients is, well, why do you want to leave your previous attorney? And, oh, how many do you have? Oh, you're attorney number 3, 4, 5, whatever. Guess what? That retainer just went up by 10 because your spidey senses are tingling that this person is difficult to deal with. And I'm being polite when I say difficult. I once had a client that was so difficult to deal with. I swore not only to myself, but to my staff that I would never represent that person again. And sure enough, she had another issue. The attorney called me and said, we want to bring you on the team. And I said, that's perfect. The retainer is $1 million. He chuckled on the other end of the phone and said, well, $1 million, that's funny. I'm like, no, the retainer is $1 million. Because that's what would be worth my time to have to deal with that particular client again. And frankly, I would need to be able to have that money to pay for a new staff because my staff basically said we would quit if we represented her again. And I swore that I never would represent that woman again. And therefore, that's what it would cost. Okay? So, Miss Boone, yeah, you're screwed. You screwed yourself by not getting along with your previous 8th, 9th, 10th attorney in this particular case. Get over it. Go to trial. It's simple. It's simple, right? That's what she's probably telling us. It's simple. She keeps asking, like, what's she going to do? Like, okay, nobody cares about your previous life, Miss Boone. Nobody cares about anything else. We're only talking about this one day where you guys thought it'd be fun or weird to zip up your boyfriend in a game of hide and seek and he hides in a suitcase. I'm sorry. That's not normal behavior, Miss Boone. And how do we normalize that very odd behavior? Okay? Maybe you're just a freak and you can't justify that odd behavior. I can't wait for that trial, ladies and gentlemen. All right, next on the docket. What does a pedophile look like? And, well, we can show you. So a suspected pedophile killed himself moments after admitting to watching child porn to a predator hunter who confronted him at his house. Now, Donald Letcher was seen on camera describing his viewing habits of graphic detail to a predator poacher by the name of Alex Rosen. Now, Mr. Rosen convinced the now deceased pedophile to admit his crimes after appearing at his home in South Dakota. He then called the police. But before Mr. Letcher could be detained, he went back into the house and shot himself in the head. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, suicide right after charges is probably one of the greatest indicators of consciousness of guilt. Okay? The predator hunter said that everybody kind of turned their back on him for a second. Letcher goes back into the home and we hear a pop. Didn't think they really registered because it wasn't like a really loud shot. It was apparently like a 22. And when the cops had to go in and break down the door, they found the guy dead with a hole in his head, bleeding. What can you do? That's what happens when people do that. Anyway, don't worry, the predator hunters were able to film that as well. Anyway, apparently the cameraman went around the side of the building and sees him with a hole in his head and bleeding. A few hours later, he was admitted to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, the hunter said he first connected with Mr. Letcher via messaging app on Telegram, where the suspect was acting pretty sexual and requesting nude photos of what he believed to be was a 12-year-old girl. The predator hunter explained that he got Mr. Letcher to admit to viewing child pornography involving children as young as an infant in a bid to secure a conviction, as the state law was hazy around solicitation of porn from a fictitious child. Anyway, he was unaware that Mr. Letcher had previously been convicted of 2 counts of sexually molesting his girlfriend's daughter, who was 9 years old, back in 1985. Now, let's be clear. Those charges were overturned and he was exonerated of that. But it wasn't his only brush with law enforcement, because back in 2022, Mr. Letcher was convicted of a hit and run of a 6-year-old girl. So, just saying, ladies and gentlemen, you're accused of something, you realize you're caught, you're going down. Suicide, greatest indicator of consciousness of guilt. Had several clients over my nearly 30 years of practice that once they got charged, they went somewhere and swallowed, a large caliber of something. They usually don't leave a note because I think it pretty much explains it all, doesn't it? Next on the docket. Who was the Jeopardy winner charged? That's right, Winston Nguyen. Now, we got to give him the presumption of innocence, ladies and gentlemen. But the ex-con Jeopardy winner, hired to teach at an elite Brooklyn private school, was going around catfishing kids and fooled them into sending him X-rated photos of themselves. That's according to prosecutors. Now, there's a 30-count criminal complaint that laid out the depths of the alleged depravity of Winston Nguyen, who was dramatically arrested in front of his students last month and initially released without charges as the investigation continued. Now, Mr. Nguyen turned himself in Thursday morning to face the accusations that he posed as a teenager on Snapchat, engaged in hundreds of sexualized chats with kids as young as 13, asking them for nudes and videos of various sexual acts. Anyway, Mr. Nguyen victimized at least 6 youngsters, 5 girls and 1 boy between the ages of 13 and 15, who attended the posh Brooklyn private school. He would apparently elicit from those minors photographs sent to him in various forms of nudity, according to the district attorney. Now, Mr. Nguyen stayed silent, let his attorney do the talking, so to speak, because they were trying to get the judge to reduce his bail. It was currently set at $30,000. He faces charges of use of a child in a sexual performance and promoting a sexual performance, among some other felonies. And investigators found no evidence that any of the St. Anne's victims was a student of Nguyen, nor did he appear to meet face-to-face with anyone. Instead, Nguyen allegedly lured the teens into sending him the nudes and the graphic images because he was pretending to be a teen. He also shared some of those photographs that he obtained with other victims. Now, in one case, Mr. Nguyen offered to pay a 15-year-old to send him a video of them performing a sexual act back in May. That was the most recent incident detailed in the criminal complaint. And prosecutors also alleged that he sent a 14-year-old a sexually explicit video of a nude boy, whom investigators tracked to another state and found that he was 16 years old. And images of several minors were found during the search of Mr. Nguyen's phone. Shocking. And the two Snapchat accounts were linked to the internet networks where Mr. Nguyen's Harlem apartments were. Now, investigators are looking into whether Mr. Nguyen contacted teens outside of New York. Oh, I'm sure he did. Allegedly. Presumption of innocence. Anyway, the school has no comment. The charges came after more than a month of further investigation after Mr. Nguyen was arrested at the private school, where it cost $60,000 a year to attend. Now, Mr. Nguyen was a contestant on Jeopardy twice back in 2014, winning one episode of the game show. But now Mr. Nguyen put on an affable face of winning the quiz show. He's done some other bad things in his life. For example, he was convicted of taking money when he was working as a home health aide from a 92 and 96-year-old's bank accounts. And he stole more than $300,000 from that couple, which he used to pay for ballet tickets, Broadway shows, and Florida vacations. According to the prosecutors, he pled guilty in 2018 on those three charges, including endangering the welfare of a disabled person. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Presumption of innocence for sure, Mr. Nguyen. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one word of advice that I can give you as a criminal defense attorney, two most significant legal advice. One, be aware of your surroundings at all times. You have to be able to protect yourself. If you look weak, you are subject to attack by somebody. And finally, protect your kids, ladies and gentlemen. There are so many bad people out there that want to take advantage of your children. Okay? I'm telling you, as a defense attorney, if you have seen the things that I have seen, you would never let your children out of sight, ladies and gentlemen. There are sickos out there in the world. Protect your children, okay? They're your kids. They're not the school's kids. They're not anybody else's kids. They're yours. You are the one that's responsible for making sure that they are safe, that they get educated, that they become a productive member of society. Nobody else's. At the end of the day, it's on you. And the first thing you got to do is protect them from all the bad things out there. Next, another Mother of the Year contestant. And yes, I use that with sarcasm. Nobody wants to be a contestant in this contest. So a woman, after being charged with killing her 4-year-old son, Legend Derry, and abandoning his 1-year-old brother, King Trail, in a ditch along the highway in the Lake Charles, Louisiana area. The mother, Ayala Jack, has admitted to the crimes. Now, she was picked up at a train station in Meridian, Mississippi, after a call from a family member tentatively identified the boy found in a lake behind the Vinton Welcome Center on July 8th of this year. Now, the following day, a truck driver spotted his 1-year-old brother crawling towards the highway in a ditch. He was dubbed a miracle baby by the sheriff for surviving 2 days in the elements on his own. Now, a warrant was issued for Jack's arrest for failure to report the missing child. Now, she's confessing to the murder of her elder son and abandonment of the second. When she was being escorted into the correctional center on July 20th after having been extradited from Mississippi, a reporter asked, "What happened to your children that day?" "Yeah, I had did that to them," she said. When asked why she abandoned her child on the highway, she replied, I'm not sure. I was under the influence of drugs. Well, drugs are not going to help you, ma'am. No. Anyway, her bond is currently set at a paltry $9.1 million. I'd say should be higher. And in addition to the original 2 counts of failure to report a missing child, Miss Jack has been charged with second-degree murder and cruelty to a juvenile. The smaller child is now in state custody. And like I said, Jack was charged with second-degree murder for the death of her 4-year-old son and cruelty to her younger child. A lot of questions on that one, ladies and gentlemen. At least we know we got the right person, right? Still give her the presumption of innocence. Maybe there's mental health issues, but drugs, not an excuse, ladies and gentlemen. If drugs were an excuse, 98% of the crime wouldn't be crime because, well, we just say it was all drugs. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're high on whatever. You commit a crime on drugs, you know what you were doing. You knew you were taking the drugs. You committed the crime. That's the way the law looks at it. It's that simple. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. An Ohio man who allegedly burglarized a pet store and set loose some of the animals was found with several hamsters stuffed in his pockets when police discovered him sleeping in a leopard print onesie near the pet store. So Matthew Pancake, yep, that's his name, ladies and gentlemen. Can't make this stuff up. He was arrested this morning for breaking into several stores in Columbus. Now, when investigators arrived outside of the pet store, they found dogs, birds, bunnies, and hamsters outside in the parking lot, and some of the other small animals were still unaccounted for late into the morning. Well, apparently, in addition to the pet store, Mr. Pancake is accused of breaking the front door glass and entering a Rooster's restaurant and a shoe store. Officers found Mr. Pancake, who has an extensive rap sheet, asleep near a Big Lots store. A police frisk turned up the rodents. He's been charged with vandalism and breaking and entering, both felonies. Now, Mr. Pancake is booked into the Franklin County Jail after being treated at a local hospital for injuries apparently suffered during the pet store break-in. Mr. Pancake is scheduled for an arraignment. We'll have to see how that goes. But Mr. Pancake, you are our dumb criminal of the day. Why do you want the little critters loose? I get it. Some people think the critters are, it's not safe. It's cruel. It's cruel to buy pet store animals. But hey, you know what? They're not going away. Sorry. If you don't like it, go buy the pet store and then let the animals free. But you don't get to take somebody else's property after you break into somebody else's property and do that. Don't know what your issue is, Mr. Pancake, but you are a dumb criminal of the day. Congratulations. Put that on your resume. Tell that to the judge. Tell that to the judge, right? You can't fix stupid, but we can certainly give you a court date, Mr. Pancake. All right, that's all we have for you today. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And yes, remember, the Constitution matters.